Double jump was an old feature in Fortnite removed after only 2 months. Kinda forgot it even existed. I mean, who remembers spawning a pirate ship? 50 things in Fortnite you forgot. I'm not great at quizzes, but crafting alien guns, now that I remember. The nanites were fun to throw down and create an anti-gravity field, but they did have a secret ability. By opening the crafting menu, you can merge a nanite with a regular weapon and turning it into an alien gun. Yeah, you can turn an SMG into a ray gun, or if you had a sniper, you would get yourself a railgun. Chapter 2 had an insane amount of forgotten content. The Spy Games LTM might ring a bell, but a ton of people don't realize it had exclusive perks. After choosing loadouts, you would get a different piece of tech, whether it was the ability to double jump or running faster with your pickaxe out. One of them even forced you to dance after getting a kill. Now, only hardcore veterans will remember the OG Christmas supply drops. These are over 6 years old and were basically just reskinned into a present. Except Fortnite messed up letting us hide inside of them, with creators like Musoke and Lachlan getting wins from this.
Hey, bro!
Now, you definitely won't remember the bunker chests. These randomly appeared in the middle of the primal season, and it had week 7 written on top. Nobody knew what this meant or why they were here, but for some reason, they gave insane loot, guaranteeing you an epic or a legendary item. One of the strangest items could only be found if you were abducted. This was the alien knock gun, and was supposed to be exclusive to the mothership until a glitch let you respawn with it, using this to troll players. Now, it had 0 damage, but let's be honest, blasting people off their builds is dangerous enough.
He might try to box me, honestly. I almost knocked him out. I think
I'm on my way.
I made him. No, where is he?
Got him!
Speaking of knockback, the Shockwave LTM went totally under the radar. They basically made Smash Bros in Fortnite. Instead of a health bar, you would have a percentage, and every time you were hit, it would go up. The higher percentage you have, the further you'd fly into the storm. It was this insanely cool mode that no one ever talks about anymore. But I do remember the most useless chest in Fortnite history. These cosmic chests were trapped inside a crystal and looked cool at first until you realized you needed to take turns hitting them. Your entire squad had to be here, making them more of an inconvenience than anything, and it wasn't even worth the loot. Now, if you've been playing from the very beginning, you'll probably recall that heals were very different. And sure, now they've been redesigned, but back then they were gray. Yeah, there was a point where medkits and shield pots had the same rarity as bandages. An actual rare item was hiding inside a cabin at Weeping Woods. We had no idea why, but you could destroy a painting and it would give you a gold coin. There was no use for this at all. It was a total accident, and yet anyone who found this could brag about it forever. One of the most underrated secrets was an exclusive Star Wars item that could only be found in an LTM. During Mando's Bounty, this was Fortnite's updated version of the John Wick mode from Chapter 1, except this time around, they released an item called the Bounty Puck, which displayed your targets and how much they were worth. You can even find these hollow pucks all the way from common to legendary, and I totally forgot about this. Now, throughout the years, we've had a lot of portable items, from the Porta Fort to the Porta Bunker, but no one talks about a forgotten version, the Porta Challenge. This could only be used in the playground mode. You would find a ton of vending machines offering different versions, and once you threw them down, they'd spawn in a mini game. Whether it was an obstacle course, a firing range, or a building challenge, this was a fun way to mess around before creative mode ever existed. I also wish I knew about the boogie boat. During the flood season, everything was underwater, so naturally the coolest POI was floating on the surface. You'd find a nightclub in the middle, letting you bust moves on the dance floor, along with sunbeds and plenty of loot. While this was a fun spot to chill out and mess around with friends, most people don't know about it because this vanished after a couple weeks. And I can't believe how Fortnite used to punish us for jumping off roofs. Even the smallest distance would give you fall damage back in the day. Literally walking down a tiny cliff would hurt. It was ridiculous. I'm not surprised Epic quickly changed this, but it also means most people forgot about it. We will always remember Risky Reels, a POI that seems to constantly come back. I mean, yeah, it gets destroyed a ton, and one time it was flattened by the block, fully wiping it out. Most players know this story, but what they don't know is that Risky wasn't fully gone. Hiding in the jungle, fans could visit a tiny POI that was a makeshift tribute, kind of like a home cinema. Some facts about OG Fortnite make you question reality though. Turns out the storm never existed on the minimap in the early days. You're probably thinking back like, no, it definitely did, but this must be some kind of Mandela effect. It was actually just a blue circle, so no wonder it crept up on us so easily. Odds are you will know about the most annoying feature in Chapter 1. You'd hear a chest in the distance and break walls to find it, only to realize you can't hear it anymore. Turns out we would break the floor under the chest, deleting it from the map. It was insanely annoying, causing players to beg Epic for a fix, and nowadays it pops open the chest. We definitely take this for granted knowing what it used to be like. You also probably know about Tuna Fish. He was a popular outfit during Chapter 2 and let you customize fish stick with all kinds of designs. The reason I'm bringing him up is because of a lesser known feature, Rainbow Ink. Looking back, most of us just assumed we did challenges to get more styles, but we actually needed to find physical ink. You had to open as many chests as possible, and as you collected this ink, you could spend it on the styles you wanted, but only if you completed a challenge or collected a color bottle. These are so complicated, it was easy to forget them. Although I wish we still had this feature from Chapter 1. Back in the day, when you landed with momentum, you could spam the jump button and keep bouncing. Let your bunny hop around the map as long as you wanted. It was probably the most fun way to get around we have ever had, but sadly, they nerfed this in a hidden update. Another way to cheese the game was hiding inside a rare LTM. In 2018, you could play Love Shot to celebrate Valentine's Day, giving you low gravity, boogie bombs, and a new item, Cupid's crossbow. This was an exclusive redesign of the crossbow, but the rules of this LTM meant that skybasing guaranteed a win. As Valentine's Day passed, this LTM was removed and never came back. Cupid's crossbow has made appearances over the years, but no one remembers that it belonged to this long-lost mode. And we probably learned about it from the old news feed. In modern-day Fortnite, you can expect to see a full screen message of the day that is impossible to ignore. For more details, we have to search up the patch notes online, and even then, they don't mention everything. But back in Chapter 1, this small menu gave us all the info we needed. If only it told us about the secret Halloween pretzel. For a couple of Fortnitemares events, we could find candy around the map, but most people remember this eating hop drops, jelly beans, you name it. One that was harder to find was the 0-point pretzel. This would let you dash around the map, teleporting with the power of candy, but it hasn't returned since 2021. Once again, most of us know about the old Ghost and Shadow henchmen. You can shake them down for info or use a phone booth to disguise as them. What players don't remember are the exclusive chests with great loot. By carrying a henchman over your shoulder, you would unlock these by holding the poor guy right up to the scanner. Now, a lot of the things on this list have been forgotten over time, but some of them were as recent as Chapter 5. They were just too hidden for anyone to notice. Medallions originally had a 3D icon in your inventory. It looked super unique and stood out, but after just 2 weeks, Fortnite changed this. Now they're all flat 2D images. I won't lie, they definitely look cleaner and easier to see now, but the 3D angle, it was pretty cool. Let's take it back to Chapter 2, where they designed a melee weapon with entire stats, a full moveset, and inventory slot. There's only one catch though, it was unobtainable. This is the Predator Claw, a legendary item that no one knew about because, well, the Predator was the only one who could use it. He never dropped the item, it wasn't in the loot pool, and they straight up designed this just for an NPC. Which reminds me of another exclusive that could only be found during a concert. The Kid Leroy's music experience wasn't a full live event. They designed this in creative mode, so no one remembers the custom weapon we used. Near the end of the concert, we had to fight off a huge wolf, and our tool for this battle, a sunburst gauntlet. Speaking of unique items, during Chapter 3, there was a special consumable that only existed for the summer event. They decided to cool us all down with some ice cream, and there was a lot to choose from, whether it was frozen, spicy, guzzling, or my personal favorite, Lil Whip Special Serve. You can find these from coolers and get unique abilities. Lil Whips is sold from the man himself, and it was literally an instant chug jug. They totally should have kept this in the game. From limited time items to limited time modes, there are a few over the years that no one remembers because they were pickaxe themed. As you could probably guess from the name, Pickaxe Frenzy was a regular game of Battle Royale, but with no guns. You could only hit each other with harvesting tools and rusty cans. Sure, you could get around with mobility items, but it was super unique and players loved it. The same goes for the Tag LTM. I mean, odds are you played tag in real life, so you get the rules. This time it was playable in Fortnite, letting you tag players with pickaxes, escape enemies with impulses, and mess around with friends for only a couple days. I mean, that sucks. Forgotten modes are one thing, but it's easy to lose track of all the exotics in Fortnite. I mean, we've had a lot of them over the years, and chances are you don't remember the Nighthawk. This only appeared for a couple of seasons, and at first glance, it's really similar to the scope revolver, except this has a clean matte black design in a thermal scope. It wasn't forgettable just because no one used it, it was also really hard to find, only available to buy from the Mancake NPC. There was also the Big Chill, an item that looks like a snowball launcher but fired chiller grenades instead. So yeah, you could deal knockback and cause icy feet, which sounds cool, yet it was so much worse than a regular snowball launcher. This was an exotic weapon that dealt 0 damage, with barely anyone spending their gold on this. I wonder why. Instead, they would use items like the Storm Scout sniper rifle, probably one of the most underrated snipers we have ever had. While aiming down the sights, it would reveal the next storm circle. There was even an exotic version of this in Chapter 2, new, and yet only YouTubers talk about it. Just like how they forgot about the burst pulse rifle. Yeah, on the surface, you're like, I remember this, they were everywhere in the Alien season. But that was the normal pulse rifle. This version was an exotic that could only be found from the Chimera NPC or a malfunctioning vending machine. It was vaulted after just 1 week, and with it being hidden behind an NPC's paywall, no one even realized. Honestly, it's even harder to notice that fish are gone. There have been tons of consumables in the water that players don't remember. Most of them look weird, like the stink flopper that was based on the ugliest creature in the ocean, the blobfish. We also had hop floppers that gave us an anti-gravity effect, and shadow ones turning us into a ghost. A lot of people prefer the 0-point fish, letting us blink around, or even the riff version that gave an instant rotation. Epic's really gotta bring some of these back. Catching anything from the water right now, it's just boring. We already talked about alien nanites, but an earlier version of these were nuts and bolts. After the primal season, you could open up toolboxes and get a lot of them. These were the new way to craft things, but in reality, all they would do is side grade your weapon. It let you swap out attack into a lever, or your heavy AR to a burst, which basically felt like a downgrade. No one ever used this feature as a result, and it was doomed to obscurity. Just like the Hunter's Cloak, an item that tried to be unique and ended up being useless. With meat and bones, you could craft this, and it would make all wildlife ignore you. Two major problems though. Firstly, you could just ignore them and basically get the same effect, and secondly, it took up an inventory slot, the ultimate downfall of this item. Now, some features just don't belong in Battle Royale, like the Propifier. This was one of those items from Invasion that went super under the radar. Players were more distracted by railguns, inflatables, recon scanners. The prop gun wasn't added until the final weeks of the season, and even then, it only let you choose from a small range of items to disguise as. This group of props, well, let's just say it was the most obvious ways to hide, and every so often your character would glitch, showing everyone else where you were. And at least we got to use it though, unlike the annual pass. This was a prototype subscription service that would have given us every battle pass in a year, along with exclusive outfits, Astra, Bash, and an unreleased character, Brilliant Bomber. When this was leaked, players went crazy for it, even hacking into their accounts. To this day, only a handful of people have seen this outfit, and she has been forgotten for years, except recently when a Lego style was spotted in the files. Maybe she'll finally release soon. Probably not. But we are happy to know the old inventory is gone. If you played Fortnite in its true infancy, you'll know about those clunky menus and how hard it was to look at your items. But no one talks about the biggest issue, the old weapon stats screen. When you looked at a gun, it would dump every piece of info at you, even things that weren't in the game like durability. Now look, Epic, you don't have to tell us that a great pistol has 0% critical hit. We know. A change that totally went over our heads includes the thermal scoped AR. You know how the gun looks like this? Well, if I showed you what it looked like in Chapter 1, it's really subtle. Most people never realized it was changed until you put them side by side. You can totally see it now. In fact, the scoped AR was one of the many items we could summon at the end of Chapter 2, all thanks to JB Chimpanski's funding stations. You might remember these, as we used them to unlock new weapons every week. But there were hidden features that everyone forgot about. It let us spawn in mounted turrets, shockwave launchers, even a remake of the Brutes. For a real explosion, we could enjoy the propane tanks in the spy season. Because gas cans were all over the map, no one ever picked these up or noticed them, but they were a good alternative. You could throw them around, destroy builds, or even start fires. More recently, we had an item that not many remember, even though it was around less than a year ago. At the end of Chapter 4, we had the tactical DMR. Normally, this would be memorable, but it was during a season where DMRs were a dime a dozen. You can find all kinds of them, regular DMRs, Cobras, thermals, it was ridiculous. And the tactical version ironically missed the mark. So when I was looking back at the many years of Fortnite, I saw footage of crows from Chapter 2, and it kind of blew my mind. I had totally forgot these were a thing. You can see them from miles away. These birds would usually glow a rare color and drop that loot if you eliminated them. There was even the almighty legendary crow. If you play a lot of creative, you'll know they have exclusive swords and melee items that are actually customizable. But back in Chapter 2, these were still in the works, and Fortnite accidentally released an early version of this sword into the files. Thanks to glitches involving vending machines, people could get the creative sword, and it worked exactly like an infinity blade for some reason. It was also huge and bulky, but with how rare this was and the fact it was exclusive to creative, only hardcore players will know about it. And even less people get to own Indigo Kuno. This was an exclusive version of the Kuno outfit that could only be unlocked in a PlayStation Cup. You had to earn this on a PS4, PS5, and only 6,000 players were given the skin. Barely anyone knew about it for a while, but anyone who gets told about the Indigo Kuno immediately wants it for how rare this is. We have completed 50 things you forgot existed in Fortnite. How many do you remember? It's Batami, and keep it here on Top 5 Gaming.